They didn't say, "We're leaving you behind." They said, "It's a surprise, Mom. We want you to relax." That's the thing about a quiet dismissal. It never arrives with a clear warning. It comes wrapped in thoughtful gestures, veiled concerns, and promises of ease. I didn't object when Marcus and Chloe insisted I fly separately to the Coastal Lodge for his 40th birthday celebration, the lavish family retreat I'd entirely funded. I didn't question when my name was left off the guest list for the welcome dinner. A small oversight, they'd claimed, easily corrected. I just stood there on the polished deck, overlooking the crashing waves, watching them toast Marcus, watching Chloe beam, and tried to understand what had just happened. My granddaughter, Lily, saw me first, her face lighting up with genuine surprise before Marcus's hand clamped gently on her arm, guiding her attention back to the celebration. He waved from across the deck, a broad, practiced smile. "Mom, so glad you made it. Grab a drink." Then he turned back to the laughter. I waited. 10 minutes, 15, 25. Then I turned to the young man behind the bar, a name tag reading Leo, and asked if there was a seat at their table. He looked puzzled. "Your party's all set up, Mrs. Vance. They asked for a table for 6, right by the fire pit." 6. There were 8 of us. I didn't cry. Not then. I found a small, empty table in a corner, tucked away behind a potted palm. The sea breeze felt cold, not invigorating. The clam chowder they served was lukewarm, the kind of bland that tastes like someone forgot the salt. A single untouched flower arrangement sat on my table, a detail meant to make it feel special, except this wasn't special. Special was my little bookstore, Alara's Chapters, with the worn wooden floorboards and the scent of old paper I'd tended every day for 30 years. Special was my kitchen, second from the end, where Lily and I baked blueberry muffins. Special was the life I'd built, paid for with early mornings and late nights, with the ache in my feet from standing behind the counter, the life I'd shared freely with my family. Special was gone, just like that. That night, I didn't sleep. Every 30 minutes, a wave crashed against the shore, a relentless rhythm of the ocean I now found unnerving. I didn't know the names of the other guests. I didn't want to. I wasn't staying. This was a mistake, a misunderstanding. The next morning, I asked the concierge when I could speak to Marcus. He said, "Mr. Vance has a full itinerary of activities today." It was Tuesday. I said, "I'd like to call my bank." He looked at his tablet and said, "No personal calls listed under your guest plan, Mrs. Vance. All expenses are being handled by your son." My guest plan? I wanted to laugh or scream, but I just sat on the edge of the plush bed and folded my hands. When you've raised a man who can smile while excluding his own mother from a celebration she funded, you learn real quick that noise won't get you anywhere. 3 days passed. No calls, no visits. A staff member brought a small gift bag to my room, said Marcus had left it for me. "Happy birthday, Mom. Hope you're enjoying the trip." A travel-sized lavender lotion and a generic bookmark. Bookmark. I opened the bag. My favorite author, but not the specific edition I collected. A detail to make it seem personal. "You're lucky," one of the women said to me in the dining room. Her name was Beatrice. She was 80 and hard of hearing. "At least your family is here. Mine sent me on a cruise 5 years ago and never called again." I didn't feel lucky. I felt like a forgotten receipt. They served overcooked fish and vegetables that tasted like boiled water. I didn't complain. Beatrice said if you complained, they wrote you up for uncooperative behavior and made you see the wellness coach who smelled of patchouli and fake cheer. I didn't want wellness. I wanted my name back, my keys, my quiet reading nook with the sun streaming in. When I asked again about calling my bank, Leo said, "You can use the business line in emergencies." So I did. I dialed Marcus straight to voicemail. Then I dialed my old friend, Clara. She didn't answer either. I wasn't even sure she still lived in town. I left a message anyway. That night, I took the small, smooth stone I'd picked up on the beach and rolled it between my fingers. I'd done it 1,000 times, a nervous habit when deep in thought. But this time, I felt a sharp, unexpected edge. I pulled it out, a small, intricate carving I hadn't noticed before, a tiny, defiant bird. I stared at it like it had come from someone else's life. It wasn't just a stone. It was a reminder, a purchase date etched into its base 2 years ago. The same week Marcus had asked me to invest in his innovative tech startup. I turned it over. No scribbles, no barcode scratches, still intact. For a long moment, I just stared at it. Then I smiled for the first time since walking into this place. Because in that moment, I wasn't a helpless old woman. I was someone holding a secret. And maybe, just maybe, that secret would change everything. You don't really notice how loud a place is until you're no longer welcome to silence. Upscale lodges aren't quiet. They're just filled with sounds that nobody responds to. Distant laughter behind thick doors, the drone of a television, hushed conversations, someone calling out a name that never comes. I kept the carved stone in my pocket for 3 days. Didn't tell a soul, not even Beatrice. I didn't know yet if it was real, but something about just having it lit something up inside me. I'd been cold for so long, I forgot what warmth felt like. On Thursday, I asked Leo again, "Can I use the phone?" "Emergency only," he said, without looking up from his reservation book. "My old bookstore could be on fire," I replied. He blinked. "But you sold that, Mrs. Vance." But I didn't in my head. Every night before sleep, I'd walk through it room by room in memory. The creaky front door with the bell that always announced a new customer. The reading nook with the faded armchair. The spot near the poetry section where Lily used to hide. You sold that. That sentence stuck to me all day like something sour. At dinner, the fish was cold. I ate it anyway. Beatrice sat across from me, mumbling about some bridge club she used to run in 72. "You've got quiet eyes," she said suddenly, pointing her fork at me. I glanced up. "What does that mean?" "Means you know more than you say." I didn't answer. She was right. I waited until the night manager came on duty, a younger woman, barely out of college, always tapping at her phone. She liked me because I didn't call out at night or ask for extra pillows. When she passed by my room at 10:45, I stood in the hallway, arms folded like I'd been waiting hours. "Sorry to bother," I said. "I think I left my reading glasses in my old satchel, the brown leather one. Might be in the lost and found. Could I?" She waved me toward the front desk. "Sure, just be quick. Don't let the alarm go off when you open the storage room. No security cameras, no locked doors, just an old phone with a scratchy dial tone." I looked up the numbers manually. First, my financial advisor's office. The automated message confirmed the balance. I blinked hard as if I'd read it wrong. I did it again. My personal savings account, substantial, untouched by Marcus's investments. I didn't smile. Not right away. I just stood there holding the phone while the night manager scrolled through her texts a few feet away, completely unaware that a small carved stone in my pocket had just changed the entire balance of the world. I walked back to my room, slowly, like I was carrying something fragile. And I was. I barely slept. My mind was turning so fast, it felt like it might come loose. What could I do with that kind of money? I couldn't drive. Didn't have my bank account details. Marcus had control of everything. Everything. And yet, for the first time in months, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't nothing. I was holding a secret so large it could swallow this whole building and spit it out as dust. The next morning, Leo handed me a schedule for group yoga and a nature walk. I looked him in the eye and said, "I'd like to speak to a lawyer." He laughed. "What? Are you suing someone?" "No," I said. "I just want to draft a letter." "Well, your son handles all your paperwork." "Then I want a lawyer to confirm that's still legal." He frowned. "Mrs. Vance, that's not how this works. It is if you don't want to be reported for financial manipulation of a senior." He stopped smiling. I folded the schedule and slipped it into my pocket, same pocket as the stone. Later that day, I called Marcus again, straight to voicemail. So I left a message. "Hi, Marcus. Just wanted to let you know I found something important in my old satchel, something you might be interested in. Call me." I didn't say anything else. Let him wonder. That night, I sat with Beatrice again. She was telling me about her fourth husband. I wasn't listening. I was thinking about names, fake names, trust accounts, private lawyers, anything I'd ever heard in movies about rich people protecting their wealth from the undeserving. I wasn't rich yet, not officially, but I wasn't helpless anymore, and that made all the difference. He finally called back. It was Sunday morning, just after the staff rolled in the breakfast trays. Cold eggs, soggy bacon. I didn't touch it. The phone on the wall rang. Leo picked it up, then called down the hallway. "Mrs. Vance, it's your son." I walked slowly, not because I was tired, because I needed those few seconds to bury the fire in my throat. "Hi, Mom," Marcus said when I picked up. His voice sounded cheery. Too cheery, like he was performing for an audience. "I got your message. Something important, huh?" There it was. "No." "How are you?" "No." "Do you need anything?" Just straight to the thing he might want to get his hands on. "I found a piece of paper," I said evenly, "in my old satchel from the last time I used it." There was a pause. "What kind of paper?" "Oh, just something I forgot to throw away," I said. I waited, let the silence stretch. People always reveal themselves when you don't rush to fill the quiet. "Listen, Mom," he said after a beat, "I hope you're settling in. Everyone says this place is top-notch." I glanced around the hallway. An old man was arguing with the vending machine because it wouldn't take his dollar. Another was asleep with her chin on her chest, forgotten by everyone. "Yes," I replied. "Very top-notch." He hesitated again. "I know this wasn't easy, but you have to admit it's safer. Your cottage had stairs. You were forgetting appointments." "I forgot one appointment, Marcus." "Well, it scared Chloe. She said you didn't recognize her voice." I nearly laughed, as if forgetting your daughter-in-law's voice is a symptom of anything other than exhaustion. "She was yelling," I said. That's why I didn't answer. And frankly, I was tired of being spoken to like a child. He sighed. I don't want to argue, Mom. I just wanted to check in. And about that paper you mentioned, I threw it away. I lied. Didn't seem that important. A beat, silence, then a shift in his voice. The kind people use when they think they're cleverer than you. Well, good. I was worried it might be something you didn't understand. You know, official. I smiled. Not because he was right, because he had no idea how wrong he was. After we hung up, I walked back to my room, closed the door, and locked it. One of the only ones on the floor that still had a bolt. I pulled out the carved stone and laid it flat on the desk. I stared at it long, like it might start glowing. My untouched savings, my freedom, still mine. I made a list, things I'd need, a lawyer, proof of identity, a bank account outside of Marcus's reach, a new will, and most of all, time. Time to move slowly, quietly, like someone planning an escape. That afternoon, I skipped the nature walk. Leo gave me a look. You okay? Just tired, I got fly. I was never more awake. In the common room, someone had left a local newspaper. I flipped through it. In the back pages, tiny ads, lawyers, accountants, estate specialists. I tore out one. Consultations for elderly estate planning, discretion guaranteed. I memorized the number. The next day, I waited until the front desk was distracted, then borrowed the staff phone again, called from the quietest corner of the lounge. I'm calling for a relative, I said. She has some financial concerns, power of attorney issues. The woman on the line paused. We deal with that a lot. I'd like to set up a meeting. Name, Evelyn Cross. I gave a fake one. I didn't want anything traceable to Alara Vance yet. Can we do it here? She said they could send someone, an associate, quiet, discreet. Thursday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. I hung up and pressed the phone to my chest for a second. It was real. I had a meeting, a start. That night, I sat in the dark and stared out the window. The moon was high. I wondered if Marcus had finished moving things out of my cottage, if he'd sold my old books, the ceramic tea set Harold gave me for our 10th anniversary, if Chloe had thrown out my gardening tools, if they'd found the photo albums in the bottom drawer of my dresser. They weren't just moving me out of the house. They were erasing me, but not anymore, because somewhere inside a sealed envelope in my drawer was the proof of my untouched assets they didn't know existed. And I had no intention of sharing it with people who treated me like luggage to be stored. No, this time the plan was mine. The plan was quiet. They say old people shouldn't have secrets, but that's exactly why we're so good at keeping them. Thursday came slow. I spent the whole morning pretending to read, my hands trembling a little under the blanket. At lunch, Beatrice asked why I kept looking at the clock. Hot date? She joked. In a manner of speaking, I said. At 2:15, I went to the front lobby, pretending I was waiting for a delivery. The staff didn't ask questions. By now, they assumed I was mostly harmless. At 2:29, a dark blue sedan pulled up. A man stepped out, mid-40s, neat gray suit, leather briefcase. He didn't look like a salesman. He looked like someone used to telling people they were about to get sued. He walked in and glanced around. Evelyn Cross? He asked. I stood. That's me. He didn't blink. Smart move. We went to the back garden, a little concrete square with fake plants and rusty benches, the kind of place designed to look like fresh air on a budget. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a pad. "I'm Mr. Davies," he said. "Estate planning, confidential consultations. You said you had a situation involving power of attorney." I nodded. It was signed under pressure. My son controls everything: my cottage, my bank accounts, even my mail. "Do you know what he's done with your assets?" "I have some ideas." He scribbled something. "We can contest the power of attorney. It'll take time. What else?" I paused. This was the moment. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small carved stone. "I found this last week," I said, and slid it toward him. He looked at it, then up at me. "A reminder, Mrs. Vance. A reminder that my personal accounts were never touched by his schemes. A reminder of my independence." He didn't blink, didn't whistle, just nodded slowly. "Does anyone else know?" "No." "Do you want them to?" "No." "Then we need to move quickly." He outlined a plan: trust accounts, blind transfers, a controlled claiming process, using a law office as an intermediary. Most importantly, protection from family interference. "I've done this before," he said. "Elder clients with sudden clarity. It's more common than you think." He handed me a new envelope with forms inside. "You'll need a secure mailing address for some of this." "I don't have one." He thought for a moment. "We can arrange a lockbox downtown. I'll send the documents there. You'll need to sign in person." "I don't have a car." "I'll send one, but not to the lodge. We'll say it's for a medical appointment." I sat back. The air felt lighter. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't just surviving. I was building something. "Do you want to give any of it to your family?" he asked, not unkindly. I shook my head. "They left me here without a conversation, just took my life and wrapped it up like leftovers. I don't owe them anything." "Then you'll need a new will, too." "I want most of it in a trust for someone I do love," I said. "My granddaughter." "Name?" "Lily Vance. She's 19, in her first year of college, never asked me for a dime, never treated me like I was a coat to hang up." He nodded. "We'll make it ironclad. She'll be protected." He stood, gathering his papers. "I'll be in touch in 72 hours. In the meantime, don't tell anyone. And don't try to reclaim any assets on your own. Too risky. I'm old, not stupid." He smiled for the first time. "That's what I figured." When he left, I stayed on the bench another 10 minutes. I needed the wind, even if it smelled like bleach and asphalt. That night, I wrote in my notebook, the one they don't check. Day 13, in the retreat. Financial independence untouched. Legal plan in motion. My name is Clara Vance. But they'll remember me as someone else. By Saturday morning, my financial independence was no longer just a possibility. It was an asset. Mr. Davies called at 9 a.m. sharp. A woman named Sarah had verified my account balances and investment portfolios. The legal shell was ready. The claim would be filed through a specialized trust, anonymous, untraceable. "The funds remain your property until the transfer is complete," he said. "But from the moment the check is cut, everything goes into the trust. You'll be listed as the beneficiary under a legal pseudonym." "What name?" I asked. "Eleanor Cross," he said. "We chose something neutral. Eleanor Cross. Not a name that would raise eyebrows. Not a name Marcus or Chloe would ever think to Google." "Where's the money going?" I asked. "For now, into a blind holding account. Once it's secure, we can divide it however you like. I want Lily's portion Locked until she's 30, I said. But with access for education, housing, emergencies. He paused. I've never seen someone be this clear, this fast. I've had a lot of time to think lately, I said. What I didn't tell him was that every night, while the others watched TV or dozed through game shows, I sat with my back straight, staring out the window and building a new life in my mind. I knew how many zeros were in my account. I knew what it could buy and what it couldn't. It couldn't buy back years of being ignored. It couldn't buy back the time Chloe made fun of my old gardening hat at a family barbecue, loud enough for Lily to hear. It couldn't buy back the birthdays Marcus forgot, or the time he didn't show up to Harold's memorial until everyone else had gone. But it could buy freedom, and that was enough. Expect the transfer to arrive within 3 to 5 business days, Mr. Davies said. You won't need to touch it. I'll handle everything. I'll call you Monday with further instructions. After we hung up, I opened my drawer and looked at the carved stone again. I didn't need it anymore. But I wasn't throwing it away. It was proof, not of the money, but of what I'd done before the money came. I'd saved myself. That afternoon, I sat with Beatrice on the patio. She was watching clouds. Her eyesight was too poor to see them properly, but she still liked to name their shapes. Look at that one, she said, pointing vaguely north. Looks like a lamb or a broken chair. You're not far off, I said. Looks like both. She turned to me, suddenly serious. You're leaving, aren't you? I didn't answer. I can feel it, she said. People like you don't stay in cages. I looked at her. Beatrice, who had been stuck in this lodge for 5 years, her family paying for an endless vacation she didn't want. Beatrice, who gave away her savings to 3 stepchildren, who now sent her birthday cards with no return address. I reached over and squeezed her hand. If I go, I said, I'll send you something real. Like what? Like a lawyer with a pen? She laughed, a dry little sound. That would be something. That evening, Lily called. I wasn't supposed to get personal calls, but the night manager, the same one who'd let me use the phone, had started slipping me a little time after lights out. Grandma, Lily whispered, Dad says he might sell your cottage. I nearly dropped the receiver. He what? He said it's sitting empty, collecting dust, that it doesn't make sense to keep paying taxes. That's my cottage, I said. I know. That's why I'm calling. I didn't want you to find out after. My heart tightened. It was an old cottage, nothing special. But Harold had picked it out for me. Said it matched my hands, whatever that meant. I'll take care of it, I told her. Don't worry. I just miss you, she said. It feels weird not hearing your voice every day. I miss you too. There was a pause. You sound different. Do I? Stronger, she said. I smiled. I'm getting my legs back under me. After we hung up, I wrote another line in my notebook. Cottage being sold without consent. 1 more brick in the wall. Then I tucked the notebook under my pillow and went to sleep. I dreamed of oceans and silence and the keys to my own front door. Let them think I'm powerless. That was the first rule I gave myself after I found out my accounts were secure. Never let them see me as anything but the harmless old woman they think they've tucked away. Let them underestimate me. Let them forget I ever had a name of my own. Because while they were out there redecorating my life, I was building something much quieter and infinitely more dangerous. It's not hard to become invisible in a place like this lodge. You just have to stop reacting. Don't complain when they forget to bring your mail. Don't flinch when someone takes your favorite chair in the lounge. Don't raise your voice when Leo gives your lunch order to the wrong person. Again, just smile. Be agreeable. They stop looking at you. After a while, you become part of the furniture, a coat rack with good posture. And from there you can see everything. I learned more in 3 days of silence than I ever had in 67 years of conversation. Who steals from the supply closet? Who drinks in the staff break room? Who's sleeping with the head chef? Who forgets to give out meal tickets and lies about it on the chart? But I didn't write any of it down. No point. I wasn't planning to stay long enough to blow whistles. I just needed cover. Time to wait for Mr. Davies's call. Time to let the trust fill. Time to secure the next phase. In the meantime, I studied my enemies. Leo, the concierge, had a voice like a knife and a fondness for calling older women sweetie when he was irritated. I caught him snapping at a man named Arthur for ringing his call bell too many times. You don't need help, you need attention, he said. Arthur hadn't spoken to anyone since, just stared at the wall. The lodge manager, Mr. Sterling, had a smile full of teeth, but eyes that didn't match. Every Tuesday, he brought around a clipboard, asking guests to sign quality surveys that nobody read. I asked him once what happened to the old meditation garden. Budget cuts, he said. 2 weeks later, I saw his name on the list of donors for the new golf course they were building for the staff. The game here wasn't healing, it was containment, and I was done being contained. That Friday, Marcus finally showed up. I saw his car, my old sedan, in the lot. He'd replaced the bumper sticker that used to say, "Support local libraries," with something that read, "I'm not arguing. I'm just explaining why I'm right." Fitting. He walked in with that same sideways smile he always used when he wanted something. "Hey, Mom," he said, like we'd spoken yesterday. "You look good." I didn't respond. "I was in the neighborhood," he added. "Thought I'd drop off some things. You're still wearing that old sweater, huh?" "It's warm, you know. I think Chloe boxed up a bunch of your winter stuff." "Want me to bring it next time?" I shook my head. He glanced around. "You getting used to it here?" "I'm adjusting." "That's good. That's real good." He scratched the back of his neck, a nervous tick. "You know," he said slowly, "I've been thinking. Once the estate stuff clears up, maybe we could get that cottage listed. Prices are high right now. Could be smart. My cottage? Well," he shrugged. "It's not like you're using it. I built that cottage with your father." "Sure, but come on, Mom. It's just sitting there in the taxes." "I paid those taxes for 40 years. There was a pause. His face shifted. I saw the real Marcus flicker through, the one who hated being challenged. "I'm just trying to be practical," he said. I stood. "Thank you for visiting," I said, "but I'm tired now." "Wait, Mom, don't be like that." I said I'm tired. He stood awkwardly for a second, then leaned in for a hug. I didn't return it. As he turned to leave, I said, "Oh, one more thing." He stopped. "I found something in my old satchel." I watched the color drain from his face. "You did?" I nodded. "A reminder." He tried to smile. "That's nice." "It is," I said. "Very nice." And then I walked away. Not because I was done, but because he had no idea that I was only getting started. The lawyer came during visiting hours. Nobody noticed. That's the brilliance of bureaucracy. You hide anything behind a clipboard and a polite nod, and people will hold the door for you without asking a single question. Mr. Davies wore a navy blazer this time, less formal, more forgettable. No briefcase, just a folder tucked under one arm. He signed in as Reverend Thomas Green. The receptionist even offered him a cup of coffee. Bless her heart. I was waiting in the TV room, pretending to watch an old rerun of The Golden Girls. Leo barely glanced up as I left. "This will just be a few minutes," I said, loud enough for the chart to catch. We met in the family lounge, just a spare room with a dusty love seat and fake ferns. I locked the door behind us. "Everything's ready," Mr. Davies said without preamble. "The funds are secure. The trust is operational. The account in your alias name is active. We've routed all distributions through legal intermediaries. Your identity is sealed. You're officially Eleanor Cross now, at least on paper. What's the balance after taxes, initial legal fees, and administrative filters?" $12.5 million. I didn't flinch. Lily's portion. He handed me a page. $2 million in a locked trust. Conditions you specified are baked in. She can access a housing stipend, educational costs, health emergencies. Anything outside of that requires trustee approval, which is me, per your request. I nodded. She'll be safe. And you? I'll be safer once I'm out of here. He didn't smile. That's next. I've already started drafting the motion to revoke your son's power of attorney. But until we serve him, we stay quiet. How soon can that happen? He checked his watch. 3 days, maybe 4. Once he's served, we'll begin the challenge. You'll need to be physically present in court. That's where things get delicate. I'm ready. He raised an eyebrow. No hesitation? None. He reached into his folder and pulled out a document. This is your new will. Updated, signed by you, witnessed, and notarized by my office. It invalidates any previous documents, including the one your son pressured you into signing 2 years ago. I took the paper, my name, the real one, printed in bold at the top. I read the first few lines out loud. I, Alara Evelyn Vance, being of sound mind and memory, hereby revoke all previous wills and codicils. I stopped. It was enough. Anything else? I asked. He hesitated. Just one thing. I had my office do a little background check on Marcus and Chloe. I didn't ask him to, but I wasn't surprised either. They've already listed your cottage with a private agent, unofficially, testing the waters, as they say. Photos were taken last week. Chloe posed as your representative. The listing is set to go live Monday. My stomach turned, not from anger, but from a quiet confirmation. I wasn't crazy. I hadn't misunderstood. They were actively erasing me. They won't get a cent, I said. They won't, Mr. Davies agreed, because by Monday, the court will have an injunction ready. They won't be able to touch your property or your name. I folded the papers and slipped them into my knitting bag. When we stood, he paused. You know, he said, most of my clients in this situation are too afraid to act. They just want their money in a place to hide. You're different. I'm not looking for revenge, I said quietly. I'm looking for clarity. He nodded, and after that, I disappear. We shook hands, and he left through the garden exit. 10 minutes later, Leo passed me in the hallway. You're chipper today, he said. Had a nice visit, I replied. He didn't ask with whom. They never do. That night, I wrote in my notebook, funds secured, new will signed, power of attorney to be revoked. I am no longer under anyone's hand. Then I tucked the notebook away, turned off the light, and lay in bed in complete silence. For the first time in years, the quiet didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like control. They put Arthur in room 107 because he didn't complain when the heating failed. The others had been transferred to warmer rooms, but Arthur, who could quote entire pages of poetry from memory, simply said, "My breath fogs up the glass. That's enough warmth for me." He was 84, sharp as a razor and dry as salt. A former professor with a spine straighter than most of the staff. When he spoke, he did it like books had taught him, clearly, without wasted words. I liked him immediately. He'd been at the lodge longer than most. 4 years, maybe 5. He didn't attend group sessions, didn't do crafts, never signed up for karaoke, even when Leo begged. They never asked themselves why the old stopped singing, he told me once. We started having tea together in the rec room. He brought his own bags. The ones they serve here taste like boiled socks, he said. I didn't argue. I told him my real name on the second afternoon we sat together. Everyone here calls me Clara, I said, but outside this place, my name is Eleanor Cross. He blinked once, then, fascinating, I told him about the lawyer, the trust, the secure funds. I didn't know why. I'd kept the secret from everyone else, even Lily, but something about Arthur made me believe he'd carry the weight of it with me, not for me. When I finished, he didn't ask for details. Instead, he poured more tea. How does it feel, Yasa? Like I'm holding a loaded weapon in a room full of people who think I'm harmless. She smiled. Good, stay that way. From then on, we met every afternoon at 3. I'd bring the crossword. He'd bring his tea. We didn't always talk about the money. Sometimes we talked about his daughter, who hadn't called in 18 months. Sometimes we sat in silence, listening to the radio from the common room next door. One day he said, "You know what they don't understand about us?" "What?" "We've had lives, real ones. People think we were born old, that we existed just to give birth to them, lend them money, and disappear quietly into padded furniture. But we remember everything." I nodded. He looked at me. "So, when do you leave?" "Soon," I said. "The legal challenge goes through next week. After that, I disappear. New identity, new place." He tapped his teacup. "You'll send me a postcard." "I'll send you a lawyer." He grinned. "That's better." That Friday, Leo caught me humming in the hallway. "You're in a mood," he said suspiciously. "I remembered something nice," I replied. "Well, hold on to it. We've got a group inspection coming. Mr. Sterling wants everyone smiley." "I'll give them a smile," I said. "Right after they fix the heating in room 107. He rolled his eyes. "Arthur doesn't mind." "He shouldn't have to." I walked away before he could reply. That night, Arthur and I played a secret game. What would you do if they gave you the keys? "I'd move to a town where nobody knows my name," he said. "Change my hair, buy a cat, live above a bookstore, and never speak unless I felt like it. You always speak when you feel like it." Then I'd finally stop explaining myself. He looked at me. "And you?" "I'd buy a little house near the water," I said. "Make tea in the mornings, eat what I want, sleep when I want, and I'd never, ever ask for permission again." Arthur raised his teacup to "The day no one asks where you're going." We clinked mugs. That was the last night I saw him. The next morning, his door was closed. By lunch, a nurse came in quietly and took his name tag off the door. No announcement, no ceremony, no explanation, just gone. Like a chapter torn from a book no one finished reading. I asked what happened. Peacefully in his sleep, someone whispered. I sat in the rec room, staring at his empty chair. No one else seemed to notice, or maybe they did and had learned to keep walking. That night, I wrote only one line in my notebook. Arthur's gone, and now I'm even more certain. I have to get out before they forget I was ever here too. I sent a car to my old cottage, not a taxi, a black Mercedes S-Class, windows tinted, chrome polished to a mirror's edge. The kind of car people like Marcus couldn't ignore. It arrived at 4:05 p.m. on a Tuesday, the exact time Chloe usually posted her curated life updates to Instagram. Family dinners, renovation progress, inspirational quotes about gratitude, none of which ever seemed to include the woman who paid off their mortgage. The driver got out in a crisp gray uniform and handed Chloe a white envelope. No return address, no logo, just her name. Inside was a letter typed on thick linen paper from a fictional company called Coastal Estate Acquisitions. It said, Dear Mrs. Vance, our firm represents an anonymous client with interest in acquiring several legacy properties in the Seaview area. Your current residence at 14 Willow Lane was identified as a high-value target due to its historical registration and structural condition. Our client is prepared to offer $1.3 million cash pending a clean title and expedited close. This is not a formal contract, but an expression of serious interest. A full inspection will be arranged upon your agreement to discuss further. Respectfully, Coastal Estate Acquisitions. There was a phone number at the bottom, rerouted through Mr. Davies' office. The bait was simple and delicious. 2 hours later, the phone in my room rang. It was Lily. Grandma, are you sitting down? I'm always sitting down. She laughed nervously. Okay, so Mom got a letter today. Some real estate company wants to buy your cottage, like urgently, all cash, $1.3 million. I said nothing. Dad's freaking out, she continued. They're trying to figure out who this anonymous client is. He thinks it's someone from the city trying to flip it. I still said nothing. You don't seem surprised. I'm not, I said finally. People value things differently when they think they can profit. There was a pause. I heard her draw a breath. Did you do this? I smiled. Let's just say some people need a reminder that not everything is theirs just because they're standing on it. That night, Marcus called. He left a message. I played it 3 times. Hey, Mom, I know we've had our differences lately, and I think it'd be good to talk. Maybe clear the air. I know you're probably upset about the cottage stuff, but maybe we can figure something out. Call me, okay? He sounded uncertain, hesitant. Good. For the first time since Harold died, my son was learning what it felt like to be on the outside of something important. I didn't call back. Instead, I asked the nurse to help me print out a letter. Do you have a printer? I asked sweetly. Sure, she said. What do you need? It's a quick, personal document for a birthday. She didn't question it. I typed slowly, deliberately. To whom it may concern, I, Alara Evelyn Vance, am of sound mind and not under duress. I have not authorized the sale of 14 Willow Lane to any party. Any representations made by third parties acting on my behalf are false and subject to legal dispute. All inquiries regarding this property must be directed to my legal representative. Signed. I folded it, placed it in an envelope, addressed it to the fictional Coastal Estate Acquisitions. Then I slipped it into my drawer where I kept the real documents, the ones that mattered. This one was just theater, but sometimes theater is the only way to make the audience finally pay attention. The next morning, Lily called again. "Dad's losing his mind," she whispered. "He keeps saying something doesn't add up." I didn't respond. "Grandma?" "Yes, dear." "Are you angry?" I thought for a moment. "No," I said. "I'm awake." They came crawling. It was a Friday afternoon, just after lunch, when Leo appeared at my door with a smile he couldn't quite keep straight. "You've got visitors," he said, with that tone people use when they're pretending to be happy for you. Marcus and Chloe stood in the hallway like royalty, forced to walk through the servants' wing. Marcus had a blazer on, one he never wore unless something needed presenting. Chloe wore heels and a smile so wide I knew she'd practiced it in the car. "Mom," he said, stepping forward like we'd spoken yesterday. "Look at you. You look great." "Do I?" "Of course you do," Chloe chimed in. "So elegant. I love that scarf." It wasn't a scarf. It was the top of an old sweater I'd cut to hide a bleach stain. But sure, let her perform. They sat across from me in the visitors' lounge. Someone had set out those stale butter cookies no one ever eats. Marcus crossed his legs, cleared his throat. "I just want to start by saying we've been thinking about you a lot." I nodded. "We realize we maybe moved too fast, with the cottage and the transition here." Transition, as if being locked in a lodge, was the natural next phase, after buying 2 cans of soup in the wrong aisle. Chloe leaned in. "We just want what's best for you." "You've made that very clear," I said. They exchanged glances. Marcus tried again. "Look, about that letter, the one about the cottage, you didn't mention anything about wanting to sell." "Because I don't." "Right," he said quickly. "That's fine, totally fine. We're just trying to understand who might have." "I didn't ask for it," I said, but I wasn't surprised. Chloe shifted in her seat. "Still, it's not a great time to keep it empty. The market's unpredictable, and I'm not dead," I said. They both froze. Chloe tried to laugh. "Oh gosh, of course not. I'm not dead," I repeated, "and this is still my life." There was a long silence. Marcus finally said, "No one's saying otherwise." "But you acted otherwise when you emptied my closets. When you cut off my bank access, when you signed my name to things I never read, when you sold the antique desk." That last part landed. I saw it. He hadn't expected me to know about the desk. I leaned forward, voice steady. "You thought I'd go quietly. You thought I'd be grateful. You thought a tidy room and a bowl of bland fish was all I needed." Marcus opened his mouth, closed it again. Chloe smoothed her dress. "We didn't mean to hurt you." "Of course not," I said. "You were too busy helping yourselves." She flinched. Marcus stood. "Okay, Mom, we don't have to do this right now. We just came to say hi, to check on you. Maybe bring some things from the cottage if you want." "Bring the car," I said. He blinked. "My car?" "The one you said you were thinking of selling. Bring it back." It's in use. We needed it." "It's registered to me." He tried to smile. "Technically, yes." "Then technically it's theft." Chloe stood too. "Maybe this was A mistake. I looked up at her. Not on my part. They left 10 minutes later, rattled but trying not to show it. Leo watched them walk past the front desk, all polite nods and tight smiles. Then he turned to me. Family visits, always so cheerful. Only when they're trying to hide something, I said. That evening, I sat by the window and watched the wind move through the trees like it had something urgent to say. I didn't move, didn't smile, didn't feel victorious, just ready. One more thread had been pulled. The unraveling had begun. He came alone the next time. No Chloe, no pretense, just Marcus, holding a paper bag with something warm inside and a look on his face like he was walking into a courtroom, not a resort. Brought you your favorite, he said, lifting the bag. Clam, fritters, from that little shack you like. I let him place it on the table, didn't touch it. He sat across from me again. This time, no blazer, just that faded college sweatshirt he used to wear, the one that made his eyes look softer than they really were. I've been thinking about what you said, he began. I said nothing. You're right about a lot of things, about the cottage, the way we handled things. I raised an eyebrow. Handled? He nodded slowly. We didn't mean to shut you out. We just panicked, I guess, after the doctor said there were memory issues and that thing with the stove. I didn't forget the stove, I said. I said the knob was broken, and the memory issues were fatigue from grief. He looked down. We made decisions we thought were smart. No, I said, you made decisions that were convenient for you. He swallowed. I guess that's fair. We sat in silence for a long moment. He shifted in his seat, hands clasped between his knees like a schoolboy waiting to be punished. Mom, he said, what did you mean when you said you found something in your satchel? Ah, there it was. I waited. Let the question float in the air like a feather he hoped would land softly. I mean exactly what I said, I replied. You found something important. I met his eyes. For once, I didn't blink. I found a reminder that what's mine is still mine, that I haven't disappeared, that I still have a name and choices and teeth. He gave a nervous laugh. Teeth? Metaphorical, I said. He nodded. Okay. There was something in his face. Not guilt, not quite. Something closer to confusion, as if the script he'd written for me was no longer working, and he didn't know how to improvise. Do you need anything? He asked. Money? Clothes? I know. We packed fast. I don't need a thing, I said. Everything I need is already in motion. That one hit him. I saw it, a flicker of something behind the eyes. Fear, maybe, or suspicion. He cleared his throat. You've always been strong, Mom, but if you ever need help, I'm still... You're not, I said quietly. Not anymore. He looked away, then, as if remembering something rehearsed, added, Chloe wants to apologize, too. She didn't mean to be forceful. She meant to win, I said. She just didn't expect me to get back up. Marcus stood. The bag of clam fritters still sat on the table between us, cooling. I'll leave that here, he said. Give it to Beatrice, I replied. She still eats like she believes in miracles. He hesitated. Are we okay? I tilted my head slightly, thought about that word. Okay, it's what people say when they want to skip the consequences. No, I said. But we're honest now. That's a start. He nodded, didn't argue, just walked to the door, pausing with his hand on the frame. You've changed." "No," I said. "You just never looked closely." Then he left. That night, I didn't write in the notebook. I didn't need to. Some truths are loud enough to echo without being recorded. They cleared out Arthur's room in under an hour. No ceremony, no staff gathering, just 2 aides, a rolling bin, and a checklist. The curtain stayed open the whole time. The sun hit the bed where he died 2 nights before. By lunch, the room had a new name on the door. By dinner, a new woman had moved in. Her family brought a plant and a box of sugar-free cookies, and that was that. The next morning, I asked if they'd kept any of Arthur's things. The nurse shrugged. No next of kin, just a daughter somewhere in Denver, didn't return our call. No memorial, no mention. I waited until after dark and walked down the hall. His door was open. New shoes under the bed. New photo frame on the dresser. A man in military uniform smiling beside a woman I didn't recognize. The teacups were gone. The crossword dictionary. The old scarf he wore even when it was warm. Erased. I went back to my room and locked the door, sat on the bed, let the quiet come. And for the first time in weeks, I let myself grieve. Not just for Arthur, though his absence felt like a sudden gust in a room you thought was sealed, but for all of it. For the friends long buried. For Harold, for the version of me who used to walk into grocery stores and not be followed by someone's hand on my elbow. I thought about the money, the trust, the plans, and I realized I hadn't once asked myself what I wanted. I'd only thought about what I could fix, what I could reclaim, who I could teach a lesson to. But Arthur never wanted to teach anyone anything. He just wanted peace, his own room, his own tea, a name that meant something when he said it out loud. Was that what I wanted? Was I building a future or just dressing up the ruins? The next morning, I made a list. Things I no longer needed. Revenge, the last word. Apologies that would never come. Things I still wanted. A window I could open without permission. My own spoon, my own mug, my own key. Quiet. Not the kind that feels like abandonment, but the kind that feels like choice. I canceled the call I'd scheduled with Mr. Davies, postponed it a week. I needed to sit with these thoughts a little longer, let them settle into something real. That afternoon, Leo asked me if I wanted to join a new group activity. Painting, he said. Therapeutic. No, I replied. Still not your thing. I'm choosing what is. He gave me a look, not cruel, just confused, as if the idea of an old woman choosing anything beyond pudding flavors was foreign. I didn't explain. Later, I visited the back garden, sat on the bench where I'd first met with Mr. Davies. The leaves were starting to turn. Late season gold, a few brittle reds. The sky was quiet. I reached into my pocket and found a tea bag. Arthur's, one of the good ones. I brewed it that night. Slowly, poured it into the thick ceramic cup they gave me when I first arrived. The one with the chip on the handle that nobody else wanted. And I drank it, not for comfort, but for clarity. They called from the legal office on Tuesday morning. Mrs. Vance, said Sarah's calm voice, the court has set a date for the hearing to revoke your son's power of attorney. Thursday next week, you'll be transported under legal escort. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat with it. That word, escort, like I was some delicate parcel being fed through danger. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was just a woman who finally had something they couldn't take away. Not the money, not the cottage, not even her silence. That afternoon, I found Beatrice in the hallway, watching the elevator like it might open on something that could change her life. "Going somewhere?" I asked. "Only in my head," she replied. I walked with her back to her room. We didn't talk much. She was one of the few people who understood that quiet wasn't a lack of something. It was sometimes the only space you had left to think. Before I left, I pulled something from my pocket. It was a folded envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "A name," I said. "A lawyer. You don't have to use it. But if you ever feel like someone's taken too much from you, call." She looked at me for a long time, then tucked it into the drawer beside her rosary and bottle of aspirin. I didn't say goodbye. Neither of us would have liked that. Back in my room, I opened the notebook again, not to make another list, to write something down I hadn't dared admit. If I leave with bitterness, they've still won. If I leave with silence, I get to decide what it means. If I leave with peace, I take back my name. It wasn't a mantra. It wasn't a plan. It was just a truth. The next day, I asked the nurse for a staff envelope. "I want to send something," I said. "To who?" "My granddaughter." She hesitated. "You can call her, you know." "I want her to have this on paper." She brought the envelope. I wrote Lily's name across the front. Inside, I put 3 things: a copy of the trust document with her name on it, a photo of me and Harold standing in front of our first cottage in 1963, a letter handwritten, 4 pages. I didn't reread it. Some words don't need editing when they come from the core. I sealed it and gave it to the nurse. "Mail it today," I said. "Not tomorrow, today." "Okay," she replied, curious. But she didn't ask. That night, Marcus called again. Voicemail again. His voice was smaller now. "Hey, Mom, just checking in. I know I haven't handled everything right. I guess I'm still figuring things out. Call me when you can." He didn't say, "I love you," not even at the end. I didn't call back. Instead, I opened the last drawer of my little dresser. Inside was the carved stone. The edges were soft from handling. I held it for a while. Then I dropped it into the waste bin without ceremony. Not because I regretted it, because I didn't need it anymore. The money was real. The trust was real. But the stone had only ever been a door, and I was already on the other side. The courtroom was small, not like the ones on television. No grand wooden benches or cameras waiting outside. Just a few rows of seats, a table with mismatched microphones, and a judge who looked like she'd seen too many people lie and too few tell the truth. I sat in the front beside Mr. Davies. My hands were steady. My sweater was clean. My shoes were the ones Lily gave me for Christmas 3 years ago. I'd kept them in a shoebox marked for better days. This counted. Marcus sat across the aisle, lips pressed together like he wanted to say something, but couldn't find the right tone. Good. Let him search. Chloe wasn't there. Probably advised to stay away. Probably smart. Mr. Davies leaned toward me. "Stay quiet unless they address you. You don't need to defend anything. That's my job." I nodded. The hearing wasn't long, 36 minutes all told. Mr. Davies presented the documents, the timeline, the medical statements, the financial activity on the joint accounts, the missing authorization letters, the furniture sold without consent, the cottage listing without signature. "Mrs. Vance," the judge asked me finally, "do you feel you were placed in care against your will?" "Yes," I said. "I wasn't asked. I was told." "And the power of attorney. Did you fully understand what you were signing?" "No, I said, because I signed nothing. The papers were processed without my knowledge. Marcus shifted, opened his mouth. His lawyer placed a hand on his arm. The judge continued, "And do you feel you are mentally and physically capable of managing your own affairs?" "I do." "Do you have evidence of support for that claim?" Mr. Davies passed over the file. Inside, a signed statement from a state-licensed psychologist, full cognitive assessment, no signs of dementia, no signs of diminished capacity. The judge flipped through it slowly. Then she looked at Marcus. "Your client claims he acted in good faith," she said, "but financial good faith includes transparency, which was clearly absent." Marcus said nothing. She turned back to me. "Mrs. Vance, are you requesting full revocation of the existing power of attorney?" "Yes." "And replacement?" "No." There was a pause. "You don't wish to assign it to another family member? A third party?" "I wish to hold it myself," I said. A pause. Then she nodded. "Request granted." Just like that. Gavel, stamped order. A paper slid down the bench toward Mr. Davies. It was done. I didn't cry, didn't sigh, just sat still while the weight shifted. Outside, Marcus followed me down the courthouse steps. "Mom, wait." I stopped, turned. He looked thinner in daylight, less sure, less correct. "I didn't mean to hurt you, but you did. I thought I was doing the right thing." "No," I said. "You thought you were the only one who could." He opened his mouth, closed it. "I don't want the money," he said suddenly. "I never did." I smiled. "That's good," I said, "because now you'll never touch it." He blinked. I stepped closer. "You treated me like a phase to be managed, a thing to box up, but I raised you. I paid for your braces. I stood outside your school concerts. Even when your father couldn't leave work, I taught you how to tie your shoes and how to sign your name." I paused. "And now I'm teaching you how to lose." Then I walked away. I didn't look back, not once. If you've ever been silenced, ignored, or tucked away like a forgotten book, read this to the end. And when you're done, say something, even if it's just to yourself. I left the lodge on a Tuesday morning. No one noticed. Mr. Davies had arranged everything. A nurse signed the transfer papers. Temporary leave for independent reassessment of living needs. No questions, no fuss. I packed 2 bags, one with clothes, one with papers. The staff gave me a generic hug. Leo said, "Don't forget us." I said, "I won't." It wasn't a lie. I just wouldn't remember them the way they expected. The car was waiting outside, black, quiet, no logos. I didn't say goodbye to Beatrice. I'd already left something under her pillow. A note, unsigned, with the lawyer's number and a line from Arthur. To the day, no one asks where you're going. The drive was long. I didn't speak. The driver didn't ask. I watched the trees change, the roads widen, the landscape shift from strip malls to quiet hills and low water. We pulled into a narrow street with no signs. At the end, a small white cottage with blue shutters. Mine. I walked through the front door and took off my shoes. The floor was cool, clean. It smelled like new wood and sea salt. On the counter was a teapot already waiting. Mr. Davies had thought of everything. In the living room, 1 chair, 1 lamp, 1 window. It faced the water. No television, just silence, the kind you choose. That evening I made tea, wrote the first line in a new notebook. I was never small, just made to feel that way. I didn't write anything else. I didn't need to. That night, I slept without a lock on the door, without someone checking if I'd taken my pills, without Marcus's name on my bank account, without Chloe's voice in my ears. I slept, and in the morning, I woke up when I wanted, made toast with too much butter, sat in the sun, opened the window, and remembered the sound of my own breath. If this story made you feel something, share it. Leave a comment. Send it to someone who still thinks they have no voice, because someone out there needs to hear what I finally said. You are not a burden. You are not finished. And no one gets to take you away and call it love. The word count, 9. Character count, 5. Within target ranges, words 9. Characters 5, full value 1, same 5.